Hello, everyone. Okay, hello. We're going to start. We're going to start the webinar. So there's just a little bit of housekeeping that we're going to do first. So just to let you know that you won't have your mic or your camera on, but you can message us in the chat. We've got a screen up ready so that we can see any messages. We are recording this webinar and we'll be sending it out to you hopefully tomorrow, along with all of the downloads that we talk about, all of the free resources that we're sharing with you. And we're hoping to have a little bit of time at the end for questions. Right. So I'm Louise.
And I'm Hannah.
And we are the authors of the Speech and Language Essentials for Every School. Welcome to our webinar. Welcome to all of our attendees who've come today. We really appreciate you being live with us, but also welcome to everyone who's watching the recording. We're really excited that we've got people who are interested in this webinar from the UK, from Australia, from New Zealand, from America, and also some people from UAE. So welcome. We are speech and language therapists who work together currently in schools, and we're excited to be introducing you to a simple but effective way that we prioritise speech, language and communication needs in our schools, and also how you can use our new course as part of your intervention support in school. So if you've listened to one of our webinars before, you'll know we're going to tell you a little bit about us soon, but first we would love to know more about you. So please let us know in the comments where you're from and what your role is in school. This is going to be about a 40-minute session where we're going to introduce you to our prioritisation tool, and we're going to think more about how we can identify SLCN in our schools. We're going to be thinking about some of those common barriers that we've come across in our schools, and then looking at ways that we can identify SLCN across your school. And we're also going to be sharing some free resources from our course today. So I can see, hi Sarah, nice to see you. Hi Claire, thanks for joining us. Thank you so much for coming along today. I know it's really hot, and also there's the football match pending. Hi Dan, nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Right.
So really today in this, what we want to do here is we want to make 3 key points. Oh, sorry. Something skipped.
There we go. There we go. We're ready.
Right.
It was me. My fault. Sorry.
So we want to make 3 key points here. We know that early screening programmes and early years intervention programmes have lengthy assessment phases, which can take teachers the whole of the autumn term to complete. And this means that the staff are running out of time and energy to carry out the interventions by them. And this is obviously where actually all the important learning happens for the child. We also want to make the point that there are screening protocols available for early years, but what about those children further up the school whose communication needs changed as the learning changed, or who joined the school later? And of course, we all know that children deserve to be heard and to have the skills to communicate with those around them. So here are a few hard-hitting facts for you. Did you know that there is now an estimated 1.9 million children in the UK? That's 1 in 5 children who are behind with talking and or their understanding of words. In a survey by Speech and Language UK, 80% of teachers surveyed think children in their classroom are behind with their talking and or their understanding of words. In England alone, 25.7% of pupils with special educational needs have SLCN as their primary need. And this makes SLCN the primary identified special educational need for school-age children. The crisis is particularly acute in disadvantaged areas, where up to 50% of children started school behind in communication and language even before the pandemic and cost of living crisis. We have seen this level of SLCN crisis increasing on the front line in our own schools, where SLCN screening programmes such as the Welcome and previously highlighted a small minority of children per class, we are now regularly experiencing 50% plus of children scoring as significantly behind the expected levels at the start of reception. The number of children with high complex needs is increasing in all of our schools, and hubs or enhanced provisions are being set up to try and manage the broad range of differing needs. This is why we wrote this programme.
Right, so we've set up a poll for you to engage with. So let us know, what do you think is the biggest barrier to identifying children with SLCN in your school? You can scan this QR code and then let us know what you think. Okay, so let me just start talking through some of these. So we know that staff don't always know what SLCN looks like. We don't know what we don't know in school, and often communication difficulties are perceived as inattentiveness, lack of interest, or explained by other factors. So we need to make sure that all of our staff are upskilled and speaking the same language. Yes, but behaviour is noticed before communication needs. So when we're dealing with different behaviours in class, these become our primary focus, sometimes before we even start asking why. There isn't enough time to spot concerns early. Yeah, absolutely. We know that identifying concerns can be time consuming. For example, early screening tools, we're going to be talking a little bit more on this later. Children are coping quietly and going unnoticed. Yeah, so what about those children who are masking or coping quietly in the background? Is that quiet or compliant child able to access the language we're using in the classroom independently? School systems for identifying SLCN are inconsistent. Yeah, we need a process that works, but we need something that's really simple and really clear. And I noticed that we've had some comments on other. It's a combination of factors. If you want us to let us know in the comments, we can pick those up in a moment. Right, so let's introduce ourselves properly.
So now that you know what's coming up in this presentation and we know a little bit more about you, we're going to tell you a little bit more about us and our background in speech and language therapy. So my name is Hannah. I'm an independent speech and language therapist working currently in schools across Birmingham, the West Midlands and Warwickshire. I work in a range of settings and with children of all ages, from nursery all the way up to secondary school. Louise and I created this programme based on our many discussions about what we experience every day in schools. And we are always talking about our observations on therapy, on progress, and the young people and how they are progressing with their therapy goals. And also how we can make the biggest positive impact in our schools on the school staff, the children and the families that we work with.
And my name's Louise. I'm also an independent speech and language therapist. I've been working as a speech therapist for over 25 years, and I'm really passionate about all things communication. I set up my independent practice, Talk Therapy, here in the UK about 18 years ago, and I employ a small team of therapists. I've had a really diverse career and I have a special interest in complex communication and also in autism. I have my own clinical caseload, and I'm also currently doing some research at the University of Strathclyde, where I'm looking at the school experiences of autistic people who have limited communication.
So language difficulties impact all areas of learning. They impact the access to the curriculum. Children need to understand instructions, task demands, subject-specific vocabulary, and to be able to express their thoughts, their narratives, and explaining ideas across all subjects. The attainment gap can widen for those children with SLCN, sometimes making secondary school inaccessible. They impact behaviour. Misunderstandings are often misinterpreted as defiance, as daydreaming or inattention. Not being able to express your own thoughts and feelings can lead to frustration and expression through behaviour, meaning we miss SLCN and we can end up managing behaviour rather than supporting the learning. They impact social interaction. Grasping peer conversations, jokes, idioms, and classroom routines can be difficult. The impact here becomes greater as language demands increase with age. And they impact emotional learning. Repeated failure to understand can lead to frustration, withdrawal, or anxiety. Language difficulties also increase vulnerability through misunderstandings with peers, difficulties reporting unsafe situations, or increased compliance, reduced voice and agency. This, of course, raises safeguarding concerns significantly. And if SLCN are missed, misunderstood, or inconsistently supported, this often results in staff becoming burnt out or disengaged with trying to deliver extra interventions, or by seeing these interventions as something that only external specialists can provide. The good news is none of this is inevitable. There are preventable outcomes when schools have shared understanding, shared language, and practical strategies embedded across the school day. So, when we think about identifying children with speech, language, and communication needs, screening tools such as the Welcome or Nelly are often seen as the obvious solution. However, these come with important challenges we need to consider. Many screening tools can be time consuming to administer, score, and interpret. We know how busy you are as staff in schools, and this becomes the first difficult element to balance. Schools are often working with limited capacity, and staff may feel they simply do not have the time or energy to carry out extensive screening alongside everything else that they are expected to do. We need to remember that time spent completing screening tools is time that is not being spent delivering support, interventions, or building communication-friendly environments. Another challenge is that the most widely available screening tools are designed for children in early years or Key Stage 1. Once children move beyond reception and Key Stage 1, there are far fewer universal screening options available for identifying speech, language, and communication needs. This is where we most commonly begin to see children falling through the net. They can be an assumption in Key Stage 2 and secondary school that children with significant language difficulties would already have been picked up, recognised and supported by these early screening systems. Unfortunately, this is not always the case.
In fact, for some children, difficulties become more noticeable as they get older. At age 7, there's a noticeable shift in language development where a child's humour and understanding of language becomes more sophisticated. And at this point, we notice some children having more difficulties in the playground and in friendships and in keeping up with conversations with their peers. As language demands increase across the curriculum, children are expected to understand more complex instructions, process abstract vocabulary, make inferences, justify their thinking, and engage with increasingly sophisticated written and spoken language. What may have appeared as a mild difficulty in the early years can become a much more significant barrier to learning in later primary school and beyond. There are also those children who move to new schools in Key Stage 2, where history is not always easy to establish, or children who are new to the country and language difficulties may be hidden by EAL challenges. And let's not forget the children whose behaviour eclipses our questions about language and understanding, because we're dealing with what's in front of us and we're not able to spend the time looking at why when considering SLCN. So last week, for example, I assessed a 15-year-old with DLD. The Office of National Statistics estimates that 71% of young offenders have an SLCN. We just wanted to drop that one in there. So these early identification tools remain really important, but it should not be our only focus. Schools need efficient and effective systems for ongoing monitoring, identification and prioritisation throughout a child's education, ensuring that children whose needs emerge or become more apparent later are not overlooked. So, a few years ago, I created this quick and simple tool where teachers could complete the form based on their level of concern across some key communication areas. Now, we're aware that this is subjective and also could be argued to be a blunt tool, but we have used this really successfully as a starting point for discussions about where our concerns are, whether there are patterns within or across a class, and most importantly, to help identify any child who may currently be slipping through the net. It's a really simple process, and completing in spring or summer term is ideal, as class teachers have really got to know their children. Basically, every child is listed on the form. Remember, we're aiming to ensure that no child slips through the net, and then they're rated across 4 or 5 key communication areas depending on their age. You can then use this information to consider interventions or onward referrals, or to look for trends within a class to see whether a whole class intervention might be appropriate. Let's have a look at the form.
So here is the form. You can see it has a line for each child in your class with columns for ranking key communication areas. You can print as many pages as you need depending on the size of your class.
There are 4 versions of the form: early years, Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, and secondary. Then we have set either 4 or 5 communication areas, which vary across the forms. These are attention and listening, comprehension, expression, speech, and social skills, which staff can rate for each child in their class. The rating is based on 0 for no concerns, 1 for somewhat concerned, and 2 for very concerned. The guidelines for each area are adapted depending on whether you're rating early years, Key Stage 1, or Key Stage 2. So here is our form for our secondary pupils, and you can see that we have updated the comments for each area. You're going to get copies of all of these forms at the end. So let's have a look at an example of a completed form. You can see here that we added columns for autism diagnosis and also whether a child is learning English as an additional language. And this is just to help us understand a little bit about the context of the child. So once you have all of your data, it's time to review each form to make an action plan. As a SENCO or senior leadership team, you might be reviewing all of the forms. I mean, what an overview of SLCN for your school. Or as a class teacher, you might be taking the opportunity to sit back and look at the SLCN needs across your class. Did any of the results surprise you? Were concerns raised about children not on your radar? Let's have a look at some examples of the type of information that you might pull from this form. You may have noticed, for example, that there is a trend for a concern around attention and listening in this early years classroom. Perhaps this is an area to target a whole class intervention initially.
Here we can see that the class teacher is concerned about Sarah's attention and listening and also speech. She also has some concerns around Sarah's social skills. I wonder if we're seeing the impact of Sarah's speech and attention difficulties here. Whenever we see a 2, this is a red flag. This is where a teacher is very concerned. Perhaps this child is already known to the SEND team or the SENCO, but are they aware of the concerns around her social skills as well? Could attention and listening be playing a part here, or is this an outcome of her speech difficulties? Hassan looks like a high priority child. We can see the teacher is really concerned across the board for him. We can also see that English is not his first language. We're definitely going to need to add him to the SEND list to find out more about what's going on here. Lastly, let's look at Ayan. Remember, whenever there is a 2, we need to ask why the teacher has rated this as very concerned. So we can see his attention and listening skills are a concern, but what about those 1s for comprehension and expression? Is this evidence of an emerging difficulty that we need to be aware of? Ayan may well be one of those children who slips through the net, identified as a child who just doesn't listen. But what about his language skills? Do we need to get those checked in more detail?
So what next? Now that you have your data on all of the children across your school, it's important to make a judgment call. So here are some points that I would consider. Who has completed this form? Do we already know, for example, that this class as a whole needs to be working on attention and listening, for example? Individual children, are their children already on your SEND list? Is anyone a surprise to you? So let's have a look at this grid, which we will also share with you as a download. We can map the responses onto 4 key areas, ranking from no concerns to high concerns and known to you or not known to you. So green, top left, teachers are not concerned. The child is not on the SEND list, no further action. Yellow, top right. Teachers are concerned, but the child is not known to you. This is where the potential zone for a child slipping through the net comes. It's time to talk to other teachers and parents and do more investigation. Should these children be on your radar? Blue, bottom left. The teachers are not concerned, but the child is on your send list. This might be another gap. Perhaps teachers are not aware of these children's difficulties, or maybe the child is masking. Again, speak to the teachers and do some investigation. This could be around an education point for the teachers. And red, bottom right, the teachers are concerned and the child is on the send radar. So we need to plan some intervention. So now you know who needs intervention. You've got your list from the red box where teachers are concerned and the child is known to you. You can plan interventions immediately. Hopefully, you've also uncovered where there are concerns but the child is not known to you. No one is slipping through the net now. If after your assessment and planning cycles you feel the child needs intervention, they can be added to your list. Now it's time to merge your data. I personally like to have a spreadsheet, which is also colour-coded. I identify EHCP children and then I split them into red, someone who has direct sole hours. So in our local area, we quite often seen for 90 minutes per term by a speech and language therapist. Orange is advice, where it says the child will receive a programme written by a speech and language therapist. Then green is obviously children with no concerns. However, this is where our traffic light and sometimes the system fails us. We need to then identify yellow children, i.e. those children you've identified through your prioritisation tool who don't have formal plans, but the teachers are concerned, or who are also being seen by an external professional, perhaps without an EHCP. So now we have a profile across school and we can see who needs to be seen directly by the speech and language therapist, who can follow interventions, and when we might want to refer on for more information. In this example that I use in school, I've added the dates seen so that I can always keep track of who has been seen when. This will also help you to identify, for example, if you've had to run an intervention for Sunita in the autumn term, but you have ongoing concerns about her speech, this is time to put in a referral to your local speech and language therapist. We can see that Amar has speech and language therapy hours, but hasn't been seen yet in the summer term, so perhaps he's a priority for the next speech and language visit. This also means if you have allocated speech and language hours, you can identify quickly who needs to be seen, based not just on what their EHCP says, but what type and length of intervention support they've had. Identifying is one thing, knowing which intervention to use is another. So let's move on to looking at how our programme can help you with the next step.
So what exactly is the Speech and Language Essentials for Every School programme? Our mission really is to create a whole school culture where communication is everyone's responsibility, where SLCN support is embedded into the whole school day, and where schools are building inclusive classrooms accessible to all learners. We have designed an online platform that can be flexibly accessed in a way that suits your school, your role, and your children. This is for children from early years through to secondary age. Within our course, you can learn about each broad area of SLCN, typical ages and stages of development, the impact of SLCN and how difficulties present to the children in the classroom, practical strategies to support both one-to-one small group interventions, as well as strategies and ideas to embed support into the wider classroom. When it is also appropriate to seek further support for a speech and language therapist is also included throughout the programme. We have designed our course for immediate practical use. The idea is that all staff in your school has access to the programme and its downloadable resources. Content is broken into manageable units with clear takeaways. Scenarios and examples reflect real classrooms. Downloadable tools and checklists help translate learning into action quickly. The strategies presented are intended to fit naturally into everyday teaching, not to create additional paperwork. We're especially proud of the way that we have enabled you and your team to dip in and out of the specific modules depending on your area of interest. This means that the course really can work around you.
Once you have identified children, our programme supports the assess, plan, do, review process. The identification tool is your assessment, and you can use our planning document to support prioritisation and make a plan for individual children going forward. You will find examples and links to interventions throughout our programme for your do cycle. To support review, here is an example of one of our progress trackers. They're designed to be super simple so you can print and use them straight away. If you know this is an area you're going to be targeting with a child, and they will allow you to track and recognise progress from interventions so that you can document interventions and observe and enjoy your children's successes. If difficulties persist, then you can use our When to Refer document, which provides prompts to pinpoint what is required for a successful referral.
We observed with the identification tool that it can highlight patterns within a class that can be targeted on a whole class basis, or patterns within groups of children. For example, attention and listening, as we saw in the example. Our advice sheets are quick and easy ways to access information about the specific area and provide ideas and activities you can begin using straight away. Here is an example of our supporting narrative skills advice sheet, which we will send you as a download and you can take away with you as soon as you get your recording through. Our advice sheets include some key information about each area and then some quickly accessible ideas that can be put into practice straight away. These advice sheets can help support your universal provision. Within the programme lessons, there are further examples and suggestions for ways to embed strategies into the wider classroom within each specific area covered. For example, if you have a child in your class struggling with narrative skills, you can access this lesson within the programme and quickly learn simple strategies that can support them in the classroom and throughout the day and put into immediate use.
Throughout our programme, all staff can access these areas and key documents that are relevant to you in your classroom. These will help to upskill your staff team so that you're able to identify those children who need specific interventions or whole class support. Our course enables all staff to recognise SLCN, be inquisitive about areas of need, and learn and develop. Some of the key ways that all staff can access our programme and its resources are through our consultation hours, which can include any of your staff members, and this includes workshopping ideas about specific areas of SLCN or looking at targets and how to support, so you can come and work with us directly. All staff can use all of our advice sheets for quick, easy access to immediate advice and activities, as well as sharing with parents to support at home. All staff can use our progress trackers to monitor interventions and observe and enjoy progress with your children. All of your staff team can use our indicators checklist if you have concerns about a child, supporting early intervention of all SLCN, which of course we know supports better outcomes. All staff can use our environmental communication audit tools so that all classrooms, breakout rooms, and across the whole school can benefit from increased visual communication. All staff can use our onward referral guidelines to feel confident about making referrals to other professionals and knowing when and how to do so. And all staff can contribute to the whole school inclusive communication policy and create a shared vision, raising the profile of communication that signals to staff, parents, and wider stakeholders that your school is committed to an inclusive, high-quality practice, with a foundation of a school culture where every child is heard, understood, and supported to express themselves.
So what next? You can visit the Teaching Times website for further information about our programme, including what's included in the programme, pricing, the award tools and consultation hour options. You can download our leaflet, or we will be sending you out a download of our leaflet that we're sharing with schools across the country. You can read our published article explaining why we felt the urgency to write the Speech and Language Essentials for Every School programme and how our experience and work in schools has shaped it. And you can also find an article about our programme in Education Today magazine. These links will all be included in the email when the recording of this webinar gets sent out to you. For any further inquiries and to sign up, you can contact Teaching Times either by email or phone call. We hope to hear from you very soon.
Right, so if we come back to here, hopefully you can see us now. We had a bit of a glitch at the beginning with the chat function, but we can see them now. So just wanted to say Aha, look at that. But now everyone can see all the chat. So we just move that one. There we go. Right. Just bear with us. We're very good speech and language therapists. We are working on our technology skills. Hello, Katie. Managing all of the speech and language interventions, that sounds like a huge role. We would love to work with you and help you out with those. Hello, Kate in Ireland. And hello to Siobhan, head of campus. Oh, Sue works for she's an autism specialist. Hi, Sue. Hi, Sam and Carly. Hi, Lady Alice. Nice to meet you too, Corinne. An access arrangement specialist. Did you stop?
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, we'll get the hang of it one day. Vicky from Homestead Infant School, hello. Cindy from Belgium. Oh, wow. Love to know more about what it's like. Why is there so much SLCN now? That's a really good question. We know that it's on the rise. We have seen it like across both of our careers. The numbers are on the increase, and that was even before the pandemic, as we said, and the cost of living crisis. There's quite a few theories bouncing around about it. Better identification, better awareness being one of them. Some people like to talk about screen time and the differences that has made to interactions children have around them. If you have any questions, there's a lot of answers. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. We would love to hear from you. How long does it take to complete the tool? It's really quick. It's such a quick tool. So you have your sheet, and once you get into the zone of, you're literally thinking as a teacher, am I very concerned? 2, am I somewhat concerned? 1, I'm not concerned at all. It's a 0. You can complete a sheet for a whole class of 30 children in like 10 minutes. It's super quick once you get into the routine of doing it. There's no kind of assessment tools that go alongside it. We're after your opinion as a teacher, having taught these children for an entire academic year. That's what we're trying to capture.
Hi, Ali from Hampshire. What do we do once we have the information from the class screening tool? Well, that's a very good question. And that is where obviously the resources that you can find in our programme will really help you. So what the aim is initially for the tool is to identify the needs and to get a really good picture of where those needs are, to know if you need to refer onwards, you'll get a good image there. But also you can start putting into place some interventions straight away, and they don't need to be really structured. Like we mentioned, it could be that you do a whole class intervention, or you go to look for some of the suggestions around activities for the wider classroom and start embedding those, or it might be that you put in some small group interventions with children that have been flagged and start to observe, is progress being made? So there's lots of different routes that you can go down once that identification tool has been completed.
Oh, hi, I see we have an EP from the Northeast. Hello. So what if we don't have speech and language support in school? Some schools don't have any speech and language support, and that's really why we wrote the course. We were trying to share all this information. We're not trying to train school staff to be speech and language therapists, to replace speech and language therapists. We're trying to upskill as many people as possible to deliver the interventions, to feel confident in delivering speech and language interventions, to embed those into your everyday practice, and to work alongside your speech and language therapist if you have one. And if you don't, then hopefully our tools will help you to really tighten up your referrals, so that when you are referring out to external agencies, your referrals have all this information from your progress trackers, from the indicators, so you know exactly what you're asking for.
Hi, so to access the course, We will send you out all of the details that we should went through on that last page of the presentation. You'll be able to access it via the Teaching Times website, where you'll be able to find out things like pricing, the different options we have. There's several different options, and you'll be able to just look a little bit further into what's actually included in the course and make those decisions for yourself.
And if you add on the consultation sessions, then we can have some sessions with you and we can work with you in school, which we're loving doing.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Kate. Thank you. Good and necessary work. Thank you. We hope so. We hope we've been using this tool in our own clinical practice for a long time. And it's something we've just been using and we found it to be really helpful. So we thought it was a really good opportunity to share this with everybody.
And just one last question here. How do we analyse the results and who analyses the results? Well, obviously, this is completely up to you as a school and staff teams. There's different ways that you can do that, and there's different people. So it might be that if class teachers complete the forms for their class, then they analyse the form for their own class, and you can look through and start to pick out those children. So you have it on that scale, but also you can have it on that broader scale where maybe the Senko or some allocated nominated person could look at the results as a whole, and so you get a really good whole school picture of what's going on with SLCN in your school.
Absolutely. And together we're going to make sure that no child in your school slips through the net. That's our goal. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. We've really enjoyed talking about it, and we're going to share everything with you in the next few days. And we look forward to hopefully working with you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, everyone.